So I went to the neighborhood on current gen 2K23 and I found a lonely little 60 overall. And his build name intrigued me. It was a two-way floor general build as a 6'9" point guard. But as I said, his overall was a 60, so I really didn't think much of the build. So I just decided, you know what, I'm going to see what exactly he did. So obviously I took a look at all of his stats and his overalls practically, and the stats that he was able to get at a 99. I wrote them all down and I remade the build for myself to see what exactly he did with this build to make it be called what it is. And the results, as you can see, every single one of these builds are using the template. As you can see, the floor general right here, every single one of these builds are using the same template, but just one major stat change, or maybe a couple. But regardless, I'm going to be showing you guys practically a run through of all these builds and how I was able to transfer one build into multiple builds. All these builds, as you can see, are all using the same template, and I'm going to show you guys the default template right here with the two-way floor general, the first one that I used and discovered. So obviously this build is made in the point guard position. It is a 6'9" build with a weight of 194 pounds and a 7'3" wingspan. The 7'3" wingspan, so we can get the 85 steal rating as well. And so we can also get a 76 speed with ball, which is the reason why we have the weight at a 194. But obviously with this build, as you can see, it has an 86 dunk rating, which the original version of this build, by the way, keep this in mind, even though this is the same build name, this is not, however, copy and paste stat for stat exactly how his build is. Now, the person I found this build from obviously had a couple of different changes, but I changed the build and made it my own original version. For an example, he didn't have the 86 driving dunk available, so I made it to where you're able to get the driving dunk available, still having, you know, practically all the other stats almost the same, but like I said, a couple of other different changes as well, considering the 90 stamina as well as the 75 vert, still keeping the speed and acceleration, and the defensive rebound is higher while lowering the offensive rebound. Now, everything else is practically the same in defense. Literally stat for stat, everything is the same because, you know, these are pretty good stat lines here for defense. And then everything is the same here for playmaking, the 88 pass accuracy, 87 ball handling, and the 76 speed with ball. And it's mainly because I wanted to have the two-way floor general name, so I decided to stick with the same playmaking stats to see, you know, what the thresholds were, and I just figured that these were just the best thresholds anyway, because you get the 22 badge points here anyway, and you would need the 87 ball handling so we can get clamp breakers, so it's not like dropping your ball handling is really going to do much. And then also your speed with ball, why would you want to drop your speed with ball at all? I mean, you can have it at a 75 if you want, because then you can throw that point somewhere else, but obviously I just don't see the point in changing that at all. The 79 3-point rating and the 79 mid-range, so you can be effective from the mid and the three-pointer and still be able to be called the floor general as well. That's a key thing. That's another thing that I will talk about in one of my videos if you guys are interested in how to manipulate stats to be called certain things, which is practically what I did here. But if you want me to go more in depth on each single stat and go in depth about it and talk about it, I will literally go like in finishing, shooting, playmaking, defense. I will do all of that in their own separate videos. If you guys want that, make sure to leave a like, comment that you want to see that in the comment section below as well. Well, as you can see, this is practically the template used. I mean, obviously, like I said, I changed the finishing up significantly, by the way, just so I can make sure to have the 86 driving dunk. Now, keep in mind that you can practically have better stats than this. You can have up to like a 90 driving layup, I believe, or at least like you can have like an 86, 80, 80 if you wanted to and still be called a two-way floor general with this build. However, it's kind of hard to do that with how everything is lined up, because everything is lined up pretty much perfectly how I would seem fit. Because like I said, I did tweak the stats a little bit. If I wanted to, I could just drop the defensive rebound completely out from being a guard, or I could just drop the speed and acceleration if I wanted to. And the stamina rating, I can just drop it down to like an 85 maybe, and then, you know, try and see if I can get the driving layup increased and the close shot increased. But obviously, for how this is and making sure that I was guaranteed the two-way floor general build name, I just decided to go with this, and that's exactly what it was called. Well, obviously we have other builds here other than just that, and the next version of the build that I made was the two-way tempo pusher. Now, how exactly I made the two-way tempo pusher using the same exact, you know, build was I practically dropped the pass accuracy down to an 85. You could even say that you could drop it down to an 86 would also be beneficial. The only reason why you would do like an 86 is just so you can keep floor general on Hall of Fame, and you can also have needle threader on gold. But in this case, I don't really see the point in that, in my personal opinion. And the reason why that is just mainly because it's a tempo pusher, and an 85 is still pretty good anyway. But you can see that everything is practically the same, obviously, besides like the basic stats like free throw, which is where you just throw the extra attributes at when you can't put them anywhere else. So it's like finishing is the same, shooting is the same except for free throw. It's got like one additional point, but that's, you know, we're not going to really, you know, talk too much about that because it's not a major stat. It's literally one of your extracurricular stats that you just throw the extra waste points onto, like stamina and free throw. Those are the two ones that you usually would do. But defense is kind of the same except for the change of here where my offensive rebound, I do believe my offensive rebound is a little bit different here. I do believe it is increased by 5 points, if I'm not mistaken. But the main thing is having the block at a 93 so we can also get that anchor on gold. So having challenger on gold with clamps on silver, then having anchor on gold as well is going to be super phenomenal. Hall of Fame chase down artist, off ball pest, workhorse. I mean, we just have a lot of utility here, especially for the interior and the perimeter, especially with getting the 93 block rating as well, because usually we would go with the 89 block rating, which is how the other guy had it at, which is fine and all, but getting the 93 block rating is really good. Now consider that you also would have to take into consideration of chase down artist. That's the only reason why he would get it to at least an 88 is for that chase down artist for Hall of Fame. Now keep in mind, guys, that this is obviously current gen, and a lot of these builds are going to be slightly different on next gen, so I highly recommend building it for yourself on next gen before deciding 100% if this build is going to be good for you or not. So don't take my words saying that any of these builds are going to be reliable. Do not take those words to heart and, you know, think that these builds are going to be reliable on both versions of the game. 100%. I feel like with the versions of the build where we're getting Hall of Fame floor general and all those builds, I feel like those versions of the build are going to be more effective on next gen, just because you're able to utilize the Hall of Fame floor general badge more effectively and with a lower badge cost. And you also have the ability to core badges as well, so keep that one in mind. But yeah, but practically like the main stat change here is having that block rating increased, as well as just dropping the pass accuracy, making sure that we don't get it high enough to be called a two-way floor general. So that's practically the main stat change, because we didn't change shooting, we didn't change finishing, we didn't really change too much on our physicals, or really anything in our physicals. So literally it was just dropping our pass accuracy down, just so we can guarantee ourselves a 93 block rating, and then the rest of the points are just thrown into like offensive rebound and whatever else that we threw it in. But that's practically the one major change, or the one simple change that changed the build name from a floor general to a tempo pusher. And then the next version of the build, I made the 3&D point. Now the 3&D point obviously the major change here, because we actually stacked on top of the last build. So the last build, we stacked on top of it, where we also had the 85 pass accuracy here, but we also dropped the stamina just slightly, and we dropped the speed as well, and we also dropped our offensive rebound as well, just so we can make sure to have the 83 point rating. And then we also took those extra points that we took off of offensive rebound as well, and we practically put them into interior defense to get an 80 as well, which is pretty damn good considering that we get that silver post lock as well for having an 80 interior. So it's a pretty good version here, because we get the 22 badge points here, we have the 21 badge points for playmaking, and then we get that extra 1 badge point here in the shooting for having that 80 3-point rating. Now, if you wanted to, you could just easily drop the mid-range at this point and just say, okay, well, fuck it, I'm not going to worry about the mid-range at all. So you can just drop the mid-range and just, get a 3-point rating that's high enough for you to get, certain badges effectively. Like, say that obviously you wanted to get limitless range on silver, you can obviously try to get that on silver and just say fuck your mid-range. But obviously, for this example here, I did not do that. For the example here, I practically just made it to where I had the 20 badge points here, because I felt like that was just more effective than wasting shit. Although with the 81, you have the catch and shoot available, but with the pass accuracy, the ball handling and everything, I don't really think that you'll need catch and shoot that high. To be fair, I don't think you need catch and shoot that high in general, honestly. Sorry about that. But anyway, but for this build though, it is practically just building on top of the last build while changing the 3-point rating, and then making sure some of the other stats are more balanced and used more effectively, like the offensive rebound that I mentioned, that was taken down to a 40 from a 45. And then we also decreased our speed to make it an 80-80 with the speed and acceleration. We dropped a little bit of our stamina, but because of doing all that, and that's what was needed to get our interior defense to an 80, because the strength will go up to a 55. So practically we have a lot of defense here. I feel like this is a very, very good build, but this is called a 3-and-D because you have the defense, and your steal is not overriding your perimeter defense, so it's not going to be called like a ball hawk or anything like that. If you guys want to see a ball hawk build, let me know in the comment section below. And mainly because we do not have the pass accuracy to be called like a diming build, and we don't have the finishing to have finishing in our name at all, but we do have the 80+ 3-point rating that is needed in order to have a shooting type of name. So with the 3-and-D, we have the 3 in the perimeter defense. So practically that's the reason why, because it's a 3-and-D, but 3-and-Ds, like, a lot of people just think it's 3-point scoring and defense. That's practically like what it says, but in reality, a 3-and-D is practically like 3-point scoring and 3-point defense. So it's, the 3 as an offense, but then it's also 3-point defense, if you wanna take it that way, and then also the point, because we are in the point guard position. But that's practically the way that you would make the 3-and-D point build, is by having a really, really high perimeter defense. I believe an 85+ perimeter defense. If you don't want the 3-and-D name at this point, then you would just drop the perimeter defense. Or if you don't want a 3-and-D build name in general, when having a 3-point rating and making sure that you don't have anything else, have an 84. Have an 84 perimeter defense, because that's exactly how you get a ball hawk build, is you would have an 84 perimeter defense with a 95+ steal rating. And typically at that point, you would just want to go with the 99 steal, and then you can have the 80+ 3-point rating as well to, still be called a ball hawk even with an 83 pointer. But obviously with the 85+ perimeter defense, you'll be called a 3-and-D. Now, we kept going down the line, and I made a 2-way diming 3-point shooter. Just gave an example of a way that you can keep the 3-pointer at an 80, but instead what we did was we just sacrificed just 1 point of our interior defense, just making sure that we still have a super good amount of interior defense. And we sacrificed, you know, some more of our physicals here just so we can keep everything else practically the same, but make sure that our pass accuracy goes back up to an 88. Because if you remember, the 88 was needed in order to get the floor general build name, but I do believe it is an 86 plus pass accuracy needed, if I remember properly from making my diming builds beforehand. So if I remember properly, it is about an 86 plus pass accuracy required for you to have a diming name. And for this sake, we also work with the 83 point rating just so we can have a two-way diming 3-point build. So practically everything is like the same, except that we sacrifice a little bit of our physicals. Now just remember this, guys, a lot of the times that we're moving a lot of our stats around or moving major stats around, we are practically going to be looking for our physicals first, see what we can buff up and nerf before moving in and then changing some of the other major stats. But as you can see, the one consistency that we have throughout all these builds so far is our finishing not really being touched at all. It's still the same. Our mid-range stays the same. Our ball handling and speed of ball stays the same. Our perimeter, steal, and block stay the same. And for the most part, offensive rebound and defensive rebound, for the most part, stay the same. So a lot of the changes that we are making here are practically to pass accuracy, our shooting ability, and our physicals. Those are practically the main ones. And I say with our shooting ability, depends on if you want a shooting name or not. Obviously, if you don't want a shooting name, then you would just not increase it at all. You just keep that like a 79 base stat, and then you would just choose another stat line to practically increase. Or you can keep the two-way floor general name from the first version, or you can even do the tempo pusher version. That one's also pretty good as well. So either way, do whatever you wish with the build. Just keep in mind that these are practically templates, and that floor general version is a template that you can use to use either one of these. And there is a lot more combos than what I have on here, considering that I only have 2 more versions here to show you guys. But I'm pretty sure there are significantly more combos that you can do with this build that I don't have here, because I only wanted to do so much because I only want this video to be so long, and yet this video is still super long. Now here with this version, we didn't go with the 80 mid-range, but we went with the 81, because if we're going to go with the mid-range, we might as well get that midi magician on Hall of Fame, which also is another reason why I say that this version is going to be way better on next gen compared to current gen, because they're relying on Hall of Fame badges. Now, we still have the same finishing. All we did in shooting was just increase our mid-range by 2. We dropped our pass accuracy back down to an 85, so we don't have a diming name. And here we practically just made sure our speed and acceleration were both a 79. We had our stamina, you know, stay at a default 85. Vertical doesn't get changed at all, because the 75 vertical is required when having the driving dunk ability to get the pro contact dunks, so keep that in mind as well. But we made sure we had an 80 interior defense once again for this version of the build. And the only other thing that we did was literally, like I said, pass accuracy dropped down, mid-range increased by 2 to get Hall of Fame midi magician. But this practically gives you the two-way midi build here, the two-way midi specialist. Or I guess in this case, it is the mid-range shooter. I think a midi, you would actually have to have like an 83 or an 84 plus mid-range. But in this case, you do have the two-way mid-range shooter name. It's still a different name, whatever. Maybe you can try to change the stats around. Maybe if you don't give a shit about the 3-point scoring, then you can be a midi build. All up to you guys. So anyway, we have the diming finisher though. And this is the last example that we have here. To where we practically did not change shooting, and we increased the pass accuracy to the 86. Like I mentioned, you need the 86 plus to have the diming name, and that's practically what I did. Now, I kept the 86 here. Now, what I did was I increased my driving ability here, just so I can get that gold slithery as well. That's so good. But in this case, I have the 75, the 89, as well. Those are the two only changes that we made in finishing. The other two stats are literally just default stats that we had already set. Shooting, the two stats are default. The only thing that we did with playmaking was just change the pass accuracy to an 86, have the ball handling and the sweep ball stay the same. Perimeter defense, steal, and block rating are not getting fucking touched at all, but we dropped our rebounding ability and kept our interior defense at a 76. We dropped our physicals here to a 70, 70, and we made sure to have everything else practically stay the same. Now, if you guys wanted to, another thing that I can do here is just drop these two stats here, just so I could also, you know, put them into something else, like maybe your speed or your acceleration, or maybe just put it in your stamina as well, because it's not like it really matters too much. But obviously this build, which is the final build, the two-way diamond finisher, because we have the 86 plus pass accuracy with the really high finishing ability, and we don't have our shooting ability higher than a 79, so it's not an 80 plus. It's not going to be called any type of like inside out or inside the arc or anything like that, because, you know, the stats are only at a 79. The pass accuracy is, you know, exactly where it should be to be called a diamond build. And we also have our defense, which, you know, doesn't really change. We still are called a two-way build. The only thing that really changes is like our rebounding and our interior defenses are the only stats in defense that change. Our physicals obviously change a lot, but this is how I used a 60 overalls build as a template to make all different kinds of builds with the same, like practically the same concept, just a couple of different stats changed. Just minuscule changes are being made to these builds, and I made all different types of builds with all different names. Like, come on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here. There's obviously more combos I'm pretty sure that you guys can find to use this floor general build as the template, and then still like find more build names and whatnot. But just for the sake of, you know, having 6 in general here, as you can see, 5:58, 6 p.m, 6:02, 6:05, 6:07, and then obviously 6:37, because I was messing around with these stats here and trying to find the best one here, and I also took a 5-minute break and whatnot. But for the most part, for 5 of these, from floor general to tempo pusher to the 3D point, diamond 3-point shooter, two-way mid-range shooter, I mean, all of these are averaging about 2 minutes. 2 minutes in between each build, and that's all it took for me to change one stat and figure out how to change the stat and where I wanted the stats. But anyway, hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, make sure to leave a like, comment your feedback in the comment section below. That's gonna be it for me. If you guys want some more build videos, let me know in the comment section below. If you guys want me to go in depth on the stats needed for specific build names, you know, like practically if you want to know like defense and how to get different defensive build names with these certain stat thresholds, let me know, because I can do the same thing with playmaking, I do the same with shooting, I can do the same with finishing. Just let me know in the comment section below and I will get on those. But anyway, that's gonna be it for me. Hope that you enjoyed. I'll see you all later.